Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Kim, aka the Booker Harlot, because I love all things Booker Prize related. So the Booker shortlist is upon us, and I am slowly making my way through all 6 of the books, as well as catching up with the long list ones I haven't read before. If you are interested in some of those reviews, I will link them in the description box below. But for this one, I am going to be reading Western Lane by Chitna Maru. She is a debut novelist. Now, I have to say, I am really not enjoying this cover, but look at the inside. Isn't that gorgeous? There's something about a pinky purple with an orange that just brings joy to my life. Anyways, I am going to get reading, and while I am reading, I will leave you with some video clips of all the things that make me happy and that I love to do. Right, Ripley? So I thought I would share with you some of the books that have come in recently. This is from my House of Anne and Z with a poem, and it is Michael Melgard's Paul Baring Stories. It's definitely a time for short stories here. And then this is perhaps my favorite. I have been waiting all year for this lovely, lovely treat. So this is the short story advent calendar for 2023. And isn't this stunning? So this is published by Hingston Olsen. And I bought their advent calendar last year, and it definitely made my top 10 in terms of reading experiences. So for this one, I'm going to be reading in December a story a day and vlogging it for you. And I will link everything in the description box below if you're interested in purchasing. And this isn't a paid promotion. I just absolutely adore this advent calendar. So I am more than halfway through this very slim novel. And before I get going on my thoughts on it, let's talk about the plot. So this is set in England. It is about the main character, whose name is Gopi, who is an 11-year-old girl. She has 2 older sisters, Mona, who is 15, and Kush, who is 13, and their father, who they refer to as Pa. Now, they have lost their mother 3 months ago, and the world of squash becomes a coping mechanism for this family and their grief. So I think a really good example of that happens on page 49, and it's the opening paragraph of chapter 3. When you are on the court in the middle of a game, in a way you are alone. That is how it's supposed to be. You are supposed to find your own way out. You have to find the shots and make the space you need. You have to hold the tee. No one can help you. No one can concentrate for you or fear losing on your behalf. But sometimes it seems the opposite is true. It seems that on the court, you are not alone at all. And I really think that that sums up the nature of this book and what it is trying to bring forth. Um, it's definitely a coming of age story, and it is about the space after a death, in which the funeral is over, people have gone home and back to their regular lives, and the main characters are trying to adjust to this new life and the enormity of that and the gravity of that emotionally. It is told in 8 chapters, and at the beginning of each chapter it's about squash and how it relates to life, and I think that is lovely done. Because at first, when I heard the premise of this novel, I'm like, I'm going to be reading a novel about squash. I don't think that's going to work. But definitely, squash is something onto itself, and it's definitely a tool to convey how the characters are moving through their lives at the moment. So this is told in the third person with a linear narrative with just the occasional flashbacks. I'm a little surprised that we barely get a glimpse of their mother because they're grieving, but I think that that's also a coping mechanism in that they've pushed her from their mind because she's no longer physically with them. So with that being said, I am going to finish this and I will get back to you when I have thoughts, and I will leave you with some of the events in my life while I'm reading. See you soon. Ripley, there's my good girl. So I thought I would give you a little knitting update. I am currently knitting the Bernadette turtleneck. It is by Fable Knitwear, and it is based on an Edwardian cycling sweater. And it has the biggest, puffiest sleeves. So I am slowly working away on these gigantic sleeves, as well as the 1x1 cuff, which is very long, and 1x1 ribbing takes a long time. So it is white, it is the same stitch over and over again, and I am just craving color work on my needles. Now, it's not uncommon for me to have two projects on the go, one in which I can knit when I'm a little bit more tired and don't have to concentrate, and another one that's a little bit more involved. So I thought I would cast on this gradient set by Funky Gray Fibers and create a shawl for a rain jacket that I just purchased and adoring. So I am going to wind this up. This is a frog set. It is superwash merino as well as nylon, and this one has a little bit of sparkle to it, which I don't think you can see. And I'm going to do another top-down shawl to go with that raincoat. So I will get to winding, and I'll get to picking out a pattern as well. Right, Ripley? Yes. Ripley, come on. So I finished Western Lane, and this is another book from the shortlist that I have had to put down, take a step back from and a couple of days and really think about what this book is about. So at first, I put it down, didn't know quite what to make of it, but the more that I think about it, I'm more on the impress side than the sort of side. So I think what is happening in this book is that there is a very subtle narration. There are more details about what happens silently than there is that what actually happens. So if you look at this book and take your time to very slowly read it and listen to what it's saying and listen to what is absent, you will have a better time with it. So I have an example of that. This is on page 97. And it says, with his words, Pa was telling Jed's mother that what had happened was between me and him. And with a gentleness in his voice, he was telling me to calm my mind. So I think that if you approach the book from that point of view, you will get along better with it. I am also a faster reader, so I actually read half of this book and then started it over again because I really felt like I was missing out on something, and I certainly was. Now, one of the only criticisms I have of this book is that despite the fact that it is told in the first person, I am detached from Gopi, the main character. In fact, I am not attached to any of these characters in the book, which, doesn't necessarily have to happen, but I would have preferred that I cared about these characters who are grieving and in this space where they're just trying to exist and move forward with their new life. Now, the final scene I really thought came close to perfection. It really was the perfect balance of flashbacks to glimpses of the future while moving through this narrative of a squash game. And there are very, very subtle references as to the nature of more relationships in the future. One of the things that I thought was really interesting about this book was the theme of speech. So I think it's interesting that Pa doesn't seem to have a lot of words. And there is one moment where Gopi brings home a new racket and she knows that it's not what her pa wants, but he doesn't say anything, but she can tell through his body language. Another one is the fact that Jed has a stammer. So there is this lack of communication between the two of them. And also, Gopi's mother, her first language isn't Gopi's language. So there is this quality of not being able to communicate through words. And also, even Gopi's memories of her mother aren't about her mother speaking. They are more visceral. Like, she remembers eating strawberries with her mother. She doesn't remember talking with her mother. So if I were to give you any advice about this book, read very, very slowly. Pretend that this little slim novel is a 500-page book and look for the hidden meaning in every sentence. So the only thing I can actually compare this book to is, and oddly enough, made the Booker long list, is Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. Now, this is also a sharp and short book. I really, really enjoyed this book and would highly recommend it. And this is the shortest book on the long list. And this is the second shortest book on the long list. So those are my thoughts on Western Lane. If I were to rate the long list in terms of what I think is best and what I think is the worst, in first place, I would still put Paul Murray's The Bee Sting. In second place, I would put Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry. In third, I would put Pearl by Sean Hughes. And actually, I would put Western Lane in fifth place because I really do think that it was intended to make the shortlist. And it is certainly a book that you could reread over and over and over again and get more meaning to it, which is very important to the Booker judges who potentially have to read this up to 3 times. In 6th place, I'm going to put this other Eden by Paul, one of the Pauls, Harding, which is Holding Steadfastly in 6th place. And in 12th place, I'm going to put If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffrey, and 13 is In Ascension by Martin MacInnes. So thank you so much for joining me. I have read 7 out of the 13 books from the long list, and I will continue to keep reading from the short list and read all 13 before the prize is announced. So please like and subscribe and leave your comments in the description box below. And I really appreciate you taking your time and spending it with me. I try to upload every Friday, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.